Well, now it is my distinct honor to introduce a panel where we'll talk about one of the most iconic, most popular, the most beloved thrill rides in the history of all theme parks. That, of course, would be the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. That woke them up. We woke them up. So we're not gonna waste any time. Let's get to the Lane. I'm following your notes. It just says the beginning. So Lane, take me there.
So the very beginning for us was coming home after we did phase one. And I remember, I think we talked about, it might have been yesterday, that we had originally been housed in 2 double-wide trailers. And so when we got back, I guess we did an okay job, because then we were housed in a gutted-out bowling alley. Right? And I think our task was, there were about 10 or 12 of us around the table in the gutted-out bowling alley, and we had a roll-around storyboard, and our job was to figure out what was missing at the park, the first phase. So we talked about what genre was missing, what age group was missing, was there a medium that was missing, and so what we identified was that there were no thrill rides in the park at that time. There was a thrill show, but no thrill ride. There wasn't much for teenagers or young adults, and the sort of terror mystery kind of story, that was missing then too. So we put probably about 12 or 16 cards up on the crit wall and reviewed them, and this one fell out.
And as Lane said, we were really looking at doing some kind of thrill ride. And we told you yesterday we looked at the free fall at Magic Mountain, and we talked about the ride system and things like that.
We're going to talk about that in a minute.
Talk about more. Okay.
Chris has got some footage.
Okay,
for
perfect,
us.
perfect. So anyway, so yeah, we settled on this idea of this drop, and then just putting it in a tall building, and we thought that should be a hotel. We looked at the Chateau Marmont in Hollywood, which is very famous, the Mission Inn in Riverside, and several other Mission revival kind of style buildings to get our things. The lobby was a copy of the Biltmore Hotel. Thank you. I was going to say Bell or Biltmore Hotel in downtown Los Angeles. Not copy, but inspired by. And so we really got our environment going, but we really wanted to tie it to a specific property that was related to Hollywood, and there was nothing in the Disney canon that really fit with that. Maybe Escape to Witch Mountain in a hotel, but that we dropped that quickly.
If Bob didn't like Dick Tracy, he ain't gonna like Escape to Witch Mountain.
Right, exactly. So anyway, so we tossed a bunch of ideas we could off each other, but we mentioned a lot yesterday. Edward Gorey, we talked about Stephen King.
And Eric behind you actually has
and Eric had
notes from the meeting we're going to show. Do you want to just do that now? Let's.
I'll just read.
Jake, we have his notes we could show.
I have my original sketchbook from, I was working on Tokyo Star Tours Droids, and my boss, Michael Morris, if you guys remember him, show design boss, he says, Eric, this team over at MGM Disney Studios, they need a sketch artist for a meeting. Can you just go in there and visualize whatever they're going to talk about? I had no idea what you guys were going to do, and I just entered this room full of geniuses. And I sat quietly in the back, and I wrote down these notes: Hollywood Hotel, Twilight Zone, pre-show queue, corridor to foyer, up 4 floors, doors open to reveal, hallways to view various scenes like Jack Nicholson, Ghost coming at you, etc. Rod Serling narration in elevator, the queue for the elevator, poltergeist, Hitchcock room, environmental in queue, chainsaw effect. I don't even know what that meant. I just wrote it. Finale Twilight Zone, the outside to the inside, the Dungeon of Lost Souls.
So are we thinking like a montage of horror and suspense?
This is brainstorming.
Yeah. I think while Eric was writing his notes down, we were all writing on a million cards, and everybody else is taking notes. So it was probably really stream of consciousness. This is not an outline for a show. It's like, what about the chainsaw thing, or what? Well, that would be cool to do that. But or what if we, blah blah blah. That's kind of so
blue sky.
So so these are the things. I'm not telling what's in his head, but in my experience, these are the things that probably stood out to Eric to write down. So don't look at this as an original idea idea for what we were going to do.
I'm just trying to decipher what is in Eric's head is what's happening right now.
I don't ever remember saying we're going to go to the Twilight Zone and see Jack Nicholson wield a chainsaw.
but
Somebody said it. I wouldn't have wrote it. I tell you that.
There's inspiration there, right? Because you have the hallway with the two
It was the
girls in The Shining.
inspiration, yeah.
That hallway scene in Tower of Terror is very reminiscent. So it's interesting how much of the brainstorming comes through on the final
Yeah,
product.
and this is a great example of how Blue Sky really works, how out there it starts and then it gets focused into it starts as a show car, ends up as a street legal car, basically. But that's concept for you, and that's been my job for 40 years is concept. Anyway, here's just one last little bit of a page called The Boiler Room. And I guess it says do storyboards, which I didn't ever do. And it says pipe.
I love these ghosts coming out of the boiler.
It said look at Queen Mary tour, lobby, magic castle interior idea, old Victorian drapes, etc. And then you see that stupid sketch with the boiler, and there's some ghosts coming out of the holes. I don't even know what the hell I was just goofing around.
Ghost Boiler would have been a good alternate name for this attraction, though.
It sounds cool, Ghost Boiler.
Let's go on the Ghost Boiler.
So just to add, my very small part of this attraction was to sketch the major idea they had. And I remember I did a tissue. I hope he has.
There's a white sketch, Jake.
It's a marker sketch.
No, not that one.
No, next maybe.
Much rougher.
It's super sloppy. It's color.
No.
Nope.
Jake,
This
I don't
is
think
after
I think
me.
it's one of the ones not in the folder, if that's helpful, where you got those
Super
those
rare.
two
You're
pages
gonna see
from.
something that no
it should
one's
be in the
seen,
same
so.
place. Go back to those later. Yeah, we will. Hopefully he.
Anyway, I had one piece of tissue, a razor marker, and 3 colored markers, and a white. You guys remember liquid paper? Oh yeah. Okay, so you can see there's a big boo-boo on the sketch. There it is. There's the liquid
we found
paper in
it.
the
Great.
sky there. Anyway, Eric will talk about this in a few minutes, but the big drop is straight down that center tower, and you can see it run off if you look carefully in the sketch. It's a runoff situation. It curves at the bottom and comes out the bottom, which is so death-defying that I'm sure they decided not to do that. But they wanted sewer pipes exposed from the ground. They wanted a cemetery. They wanted to be really, really spooky. And it's still pretty scary looking, but this was kind of evil scary. Anyway, after this, they sent me to my office to do a painting. The next day at midday, please do a painting of it. And then they came over the next day to collect it, and that went into the Orlando newspaper as Disney Decades. So that's all I did.
I think what
was
went
a
into the
lot.
newspaper is it's the one. If you got the print during the course of the event, it is that art, Jake. I think we have that in that same spot in
what's-
the
what's-
folder as well.
What's great about Eric and Tim Kirk
That's later.
is that while we're all talking, I'm great at writing our cards and talking. You can tell I'm great at talking. But these guys are back there, grabbing what we say and what they think also and getting it down to visuals. So when we end, we have a wall of cards and a bunch of, some great and some like, what? Sketches. But it's all, and then we can look at all that and say, that really turns me on. I don't really think that works anymore. What about that? And as we moved in, we're jumping around a little bit here, but that last sketch that Eric did with the graveyard and all that stuff, when we decided to move into the Twilight Zone, realized it wasn't about a haunted hotel, it was about a supernatural event. And so the graveyard idea went away, and so the ghost in the boiler room went away. And
You're
so
more
we-
adjacent
we
to
start-
Haunted Mansion at this point. You want to get
yeah,
away from
but
that,
it's really we didn't want to do Haunted Mansion with the drop anymore. Exactly right. So that just shows you a little bit of how the creative process works at the beginning.
Two things I want to talk about. If we couldn't bring that art back up, there is this reoccurring thing in a lot of the early art, and it's in Eric's piece. Back one more to that white on the white. Nope, back again. I think it was between those.
I know, how'd that happen?
I don't know. We're having all sorts of problems back there. Here we go. The thing I keep noticing is this central tower, sort of not circular, but I don't know what shape to call it.
That was based on, you just said was the
This is the
This
and the
skinny
Chateau
central tower.
Marmont.
Yeah. This skinny central tower keeps showing up. It's even in later stuff. It's in post-opening stuff, the commemorative ticket and such. There's some public art that has this tower. Is this related to the ride system you went and visited?
Absolutely.
Chris, if you want to
You're
talk about
about
that,
to
we'll
see.
lead into the footage.
Yeah.
Well, okay then. That's a nice segue. Good job, Tom. So, sort of adjacent and very early on, my role in a lot of these things was figuring out what we could do and how we could do it and establishing the technical direction for the project and what that would be. So while the original discussion was talking about thrill rides, everything else, the idea of free fall at Magic Mountain came up. So we, of course, had to do a research trip, and I actually captured that on video. So I want to share that now so we can see some people a few years back.
And Chris wanted to cut this down, and I insisted we show the entire thing.
That's true.
Yeah. So this is going to be the trip to Magic Mountain it was called Free Fall, the attraction.
Yeah, free fall at Magic Mountain in Valencia in California.
Use the word attraction very loosely.
The ride at Magic Mountain. Yeah, we're back to my awesome home editing system.
Called a font? I'm not sure.
That's all. I was so excited when I got color titler.
With hands on that wheel, son.
Change lanes now.
The rocking motion that you feel
from all the Imagineers.
Reporting to you live from the northbound 5 Interstate 5 freeway, and I just wanted to document this in case we don't get back alive because pan to the right, please. Kevin
That's Lisa
Rafferty
Girolami.
is driving.
Kevin
He's
Rafferty.
hearing us a lot. Hey, chauffeur. Turn around, turn around.
We'll drive.
I told you I could drive.
Kevin, no,
could have been the
Kevin.
thrower.
Oh my God. Kevin! Hence the run out in the artwork. This is the way that the Intamin free fall attraction runs.
What do you think of the ride, Kevin?
Well,
Is he rolling?
yes.
What did I think of the ride?
Yes,
I
Kevin.
will never do it again as long as I live and have it on tape. Thank you very much.
Don't you think we should build something just like this?
I hate it. That's why it'll be good. It'll be great. I love it. Michael, what's it going to take for you to buy this today?
Classic Kevin Rafferty. Michael, there you go. Yeah, exactly. I hated it, so it'll be a huge hit.
So here you really want to go the whole process.
Documenting what it was. It's the vehicle goes up and then pushes forward out to the drop position. Gives you just a second to think about why have I selected to do this, and then it drops.
This return system. Who thought of this? It's like reclining.
That's what ride engineers do. Yeah, it's done that way, so you come down on your back so that all the G-forces when you're going to the braking are all the way that you normally are standing, sitting, etc. So it's the safe way to do that. There we go.
So,
It did get cut down.
oh, it did. Okay.
Yeah, because the next bit, Lane and Lisa Girolami and Phil Bloom are all going onto the vehicle. And we see them on there basically screaming as it goes up and then coming down. Yes.
Lane secretly cut it. She snuck in there and cut that out. So why ultimately do we decide not to go with this system? What happened?
Well, there's initial layouts that went along, and again, Disney is a story-driven, company. We don't do thrill rides as just the hardware like that. We don't do that. So I was very much a proponent of making sure everything felt like an elevator, looked like an elevator. People went in and they thought they were in an elevator, and it does elevator-like things. The doors close horizontally in front of you. It goes up, it surges, and it stops at the floor. The doors open in front of you and they close, reminding you what elevators do. And then we get up to the fifth dimension room, and it does a very un-elevator-like thing, and you float out of the shaft and move through this crazy, wacky space. Lots of different illusions and things that happen in there. So it became a vehicle pod that we kind of handed off for like 3 different ride systems to move through the whole thing. And then there was an evolution of the design of how we would do what we would do. And that led to like 1,000 horsepower motors to drive this thing up and down on the roof. to make the box that it moves in when it's going up and down. Factor of safety is a nice technical engineering term, but it's basically the ratio between the strength of things versus the loads it's going to experience. And when you have life safety critical elements, you want that to be big. So you want to have lots of extra strength to make sure that you don't have any problems. And that's absolutely the system that was developed eventually and installed there. So anyway, but that was sort of the input and the direction. The first layouts I did the first layouts actually had the run out and it doing other weird things. But then that
Actually,
evolved.
I was going to go down this side route that it looked like this ride system was envisioned for other parks at some point. Discovery Mountain in Paris has this similar thing where there's that run out again, too. So I guess you guys were thinking about it for a couple things. I don't know. You were first?
Yeah, we were. No, but I think what Chris was talking about, there was a breakthrough where we knew creatively we wanted to do an elevator, we wanted to do a tall tower.
Yeah.
Us non-engineer people only imagined this kind of run-out idea. And then these guys came and said, we can make it more like an elevator. This is how we can do that. We said, my gosh, that's so liberating. Because we didn't know how to explain why you went on your back in an elevator. So that took that all away. And then we said, well, how can we float through the fifth dimension? And Chris and the team said, well, we can disengage as he just, all the above, and then do the drop separately. So it is happening at the same time that the other people are coming up in the thing. So that was really like the big, as cliche, aha moment.
We do have
really helped us.
There's like a graph, Martin Smith graph that really helps explain this ride system better than I think anyone else can. Jake, if you can find that, sort of.
I don't remember this at all, but
It's a lot
because
like
we didn't work on
20,000,
Paris.
the Jules
but-
Verne Tower of no.
But the other thing that was interesting about this is we're looking for whatever is we designed Sunset Boulevard to accommodate the run out. That was why why Sunset Boulevard was there, because we knew the run out was going to be underground. We wouldn't see it like you did at Magic Mountain, and then you'd somehow come back to the hotel, which pushed it far away. So we did the idea of a street to walk to the hotel over that. What was really hard about that was selling the idea of all that retail and dining and stuff like that, because the park didn't really need it yet. The capacity was growing, but it wasn't there yet.
Yeah.
And so we really want to do that. What Chris did for us was amazing, but what it also did is an excuse for people to say, well, now you don't need that street. We can just move the tower up and put it right on the hub where the old Theater of the Stars was.
But we know you built the street, though.
And what's that? So Lane and all of us in the team said, but we really don't want that almost 200-story or 200-foot building right in the middle, making the Chinese theater look like a little Lego toy, and it just was wrong. So we really, really pushed hard to keep it back there, to make Sunset Boulevard happen, and we got our way. But they weren't ready for the buildings. For a long time, Sunset Boulevard had hardly any activity in it. It was just facades. And one by one, we filled the retail pieces in. And now, of course, they're happy they have it. But originally, that was going to be a struggle. So, and we're really, the Tower of Terror, I think, the way we angled it so it's not, straight on, it looks much more elegant and a little bit thinner than it had to be.
More realistic.
Yeah, more realistic. And then we put the gateway to the Hollywood Hills housing development, which Hollywood Land, which is in front of it, to help that scale too, to make it look like that was smaller, and then really big. So I think it was really successful.
I know we have that in the Jake. If we could just run through that concept art folder, if you have it. Hopefully things are working back there. I see them. I see the struggling from the system. So I'm glad we got the video out at least, because love that. Okay. Well, here's what was built. Thank you, Martin Smith. This shows a nice clean look, as clean as it can be, of what was built and kind of how it works. I don't know if you guys want to say anything about this.
Well, one of the key things that we always have to look at in developing rides is the operational reality of it, theoretical hourly ride capacity, which is the throughput, how many thousand people an hour you can get through a ride. And when you separate out the systems, so you saw on the free fall, it's like one vehicle goes up, it comes down, and then it backs up. You can have another one going up while that's there, so that's two running. When you separate out the systems like this, then you can actually have system, think of it, a ride vehicle working in each at the same time. You just need these different block zones, they're called, for safety, to ensure they don't ever run into each other, and you control it all the way through. So it actually helps the throughput when you split it like this as well. So it's, it all ended up working out really well.
I was going to say, Frank, where do you come in here?
Oh, yeah. So just, a couple things on this. The wound up being a Otis elevator motor, and they were really nervous about doing this. I'm sure probably there'll be more discussion about that, but they put a very strict weight limit on us. The whole thing can't weigh more than, I don't remember the number, but so we wanted, of course, as many people on the vehicle as we could get to get, as Chris was saying, to get the capacity up, and the show profile was such that we could only dispatch so fast. So when you take the weight of the people off, the weight that was left for the vehicle, and this was unlike the other ones, this one has to translate. So it had to have a motor and traction wheels and all that on it. So it was really, really tough to get that weight down. And Aidan Bradley was the same guy that helped us on the Epic Theater. He designed this, and it was the first time we used essentially 1960s aircraft technology. So instead of welding up big pieces of steel, we used high-strength steel and riveted it together like they used to on airplanes, and we were able to, believe it or not, get in the weight budget.
So I just want to clarify, the entry of the ride system is at the base of those 4 elevators that are on the back here, but those are actually the entry elevators. And so one loads and goes up, the other one loads and goes up. So you've got capacity there, and it alternates so that they get to the 5th dimension, which is the transfer across. They alternate across there, transfer into the big tower, and then back down and back to the start point.
Yeah, one side note is the team went down to downtown Los Angeles to the brand new Southern California Gas building, which is at that point the tallest building in Los Angeles. And Otis Elevator had installed their latest state-of-the-art elevator that traveled, I forget, but really, really fast. And so we wrote it and said, this is really great, but what we want you to do is feel like you're going fast. Because they said, we get in the elevator, the door is closed, and you felt like a little bit of this. And they said, okay, we're there, like 100 stories in the air or something. And they said, no, what we want to do is have people feel terrified and feel shakiness and jerkiness, all this stuff. And the guy from Otis said, you're asking us to put back into elevators where we spent 180 years taking out of them. So that was really a challenge for them. And helping us, but it was a great experience, and that sort of was a moment of saying
no.
Well, for me it was not. But anyway, that sort of set the tone for how we wanted to work with the ride guys to say this is what we want, but we want to do that kind of that technological leap, but we want to make it feel like it was the old-fashioned kind of thing, and that was the gauntlet that was thrown.
I think I speak for everyone in the room where look at this crazy thing. Like the fact that you guys not only thought of this but pulled this off is incredible. Like I think it still might be the most creative ride system we've ever seen. I'm sure the crowd agrees. But let's shift back to the Twilight Zone. So we hadn't quite landed on the Twilight Zone theme. When do we land on that theme and how?
I do forget what to say. I think we went back and forth, and it was quite a while, but we finally realized that Twilight Zone was A, something we could get, B, something that we all loved. C, it sort of fit into the television kind of genre, which we didn't have a lot of in the park. So we said this is the way to go. And also, I think I mentioned the other day, Stephen King said he wasn't interested. Others said we wanted to get away from horror, and that kind of creepiness. So it just felt like it was a different flavor, and complemented everything else. And Michael was enthusiastic about it, so we went for it, and we got the rights to the Twilight Zone, and then started working on the most challenging part was looking for how to tell a Twilight Zone story that wasn't an original. We didn't pull an episode and use that. We had to make up a story. So Michael Sprout, you've heard his name a lot these last 2 days. He worked with the writing team And Kevin Rafferty, you saw in the movie, he was in the video. He was involved early, but then Michael Sprout came in and sort of took it over. But
Kevin's also a writer, by the way.
Yeah, and Michael put on his goggles to look at yet more videotapes. He did the same thing with Great Movie Ride, but looked at every Twilight Zone one available. And one thing he was looking for, anyway, so we knew it was going to be about this runaway elevator and this supernatural story and this haunted hotel. But he came up with the idea that, not a haunted hotel, but a supernatural event that happened on Halloween and the year it was, and this was going to involve a family that disappeared. And all that stuff came together, not as quickly as I'm describing it, but once we locked on that story, we said what we have to do is we have to have Rod Serling in this, because no Twilight Zone episode starts without an introduction by Rod Serling. So once we had the story locked, Michael started looking at the videos to find a clip we could use so we didn't have to hire an actor to portray him in the flesh. And yeah, up close. And so he found an episode. I don't remember what the episode was called. Do you, Elaine?
It's a Good Life.
It's a Good Life was the episode. And he's standing in front of a map, and he's talking about, he says, and this is going to be Mark, our special guest here, is going to do this in a minute, but what he found is a clip where Rod Serling points to this, what you see behind me is a map, and then he continues. But so we cut it right when his lips went to the M sound and changed it to
Maintenance service elevator. Still in operation waiting for you. We invite you, if you dare, to step aboard, because in tonight's episode, you are the star. And this elevator travels directly to the Twilight Zone. But that was me before they cut away to the elevator also.
Yeah. So basically, what we did is I didn't do anything, had nothing to do with it. But we as a team did is took that clip of Rod Serling, put him against a new background showing what our maintenance service alley was going to look like, and he pointed right when he says. Before it changed from map to maintenance, we cut away from Rod so that that Mark's voice just fills in it. So it looks like Rod Serling is saying the whole thing, but you don't see
Clever
it.
editing, yeah.
And also, what's funny about that, a lot of people, even in one of the Disney tour books, says, look how family-friendly Disney had to digitally remove Rod Serling's cigarette from the opening, and he just didn't happen to be smoking in that scene. But he smokes in most of them, but not that clip.
Yeah.
Mark, do you remember how you fell into this?
I do. I was just a regular voice actor, and I love Twilight Zone, and I love Disney. I love Disneyland so much, I used to walk around in the 70s with a tape recorder, a cassette recorder, recording the rides. And I would practice all the voices, no matter what it was. Someday, the People Mover may be carrying you through stores and shopping malls in your own community. Or even on Pirates, perhaps you knows too much. You've seen the cursed treasure. You know where it be hidden. Now proceed at your own risk. These be the last friendly words you hear. You may not survive to pass this way again. I knew every single word coming out of any speaker in Disneyland. Oh, my favorite, the submarine. These patriarchs of the deep are the these heaping stone structures, but whatever it was, you know. I knew everything, and I would call Imagineering and tell them, I want to do voices, I want to do this and that, you know. And then years later, an audition came up to do Rod Serling for a Disney ride, and that confused me. I said, how are they going to do a Twilight Zone and Disney? I couldn't figure that out. So I went in and read it once into this tape recorder in this agent's office in Beverly Hills. And then 2 weeks passed, and I never really thought about it, because you never really hear about these things most of the time again. And then 2 weeks later, the agent called back, and I still have the recording. She says, hi, Mark. That Rod Serling thing you came in on, well, it didn't die, and they want you back in Imagineering for a second audition. And I wasn't even thinking about the job. I said, yeah, I get to get into Imagineering and walk around in there. That was what was so much exciting for me. So after the next audition, the casting lady said, you know, it's now down to 19 people, and they really like you. And then there was another audition. He says, you know, it's down to 6 people and you're right at the top. And then there was one more audition, and I went in and I read the thing, and I think I walked in with like these fake bubblegum cigarettes even as Rod Serling. And when I left that audition, they came out into the lobby and said that I got it. And I thought, my God, I'm the voice of a Disney ride. And it was an incredible experience. And that's how that happened. And then I went in to record a couple months later. And that only took about an hour. But what was interesting about that is about 4 months after that, there was a big PR thing at Disney Studios in Burbank for Tower of Terror. And I narrated that. And they called and said, we think you're better at it now than you were when you did the attraction. Can you come back and do it again? So I said, yeah, sure, I'll come back. So on that schedule, I got really sick and I had a terrible cold. And I said, I don't think I can do it. They said, come in, we have the room all rented out for you. We want you to come in. And I said one line, you are the passengers and and it sounded so bad, they sent me home. And then 4 months later after that, I came in and did it again. And that's the recording you hear. Yeah.
Now, were you a fan of the Twilight Zone? Is Rod someone you had done many times before?
I was obsessed with Twilight Zone. I watched every marathon. I loved Twilight Zone. And Disney and Twilight Zone were 2 of my biggest obsessions growing up. And then they all became this weird reality for me. It's like my own personal Twilight Zone. Nobody could believe it when it happened that I was the voice of a Disney ride and it was a Twilight Zone ride. It just seemed too perfect.
Well, we thank you for what you did to contribute
thank
to us.
you.
And we.
Thank you. But my favorite thing, my dentist is in a very tall building, and I get into that elevator, and this is about 20 years ago, and there's a lot of, uptight businessmen and women with babies, and the elevators close. You were the passengers on a most uncommon elevator. And people start laughing and applauding, and I felt like I brought a little bit of Disney magic into people's lives when they didn't even expect it. And I can't stop. Any elevator I get into, that spiel comes out. It just keeps happening.
And we were privileged to have Rod Serling's widow, Carol, come to the grand opening.
Oh, that was...
And she definitely approved of Mark's work. So she said, that sounds like my husband.
That was great, yeah. She was there and her family was there, and I met Rod's brother that night. Yeah, what a fantastic experience that was.
It was great, yeah.
Thank you.
I'd like to quickly, if we can, Jake, just fly through the concept art folder. I know there's a bit there, and just if anyone has anything to add. But if not, I just want to make sure we show these.
Well, this was done by Tim Kirk. You can see the Tower of Terror, and then the run out underneath that, and you can see that what's became the Hollywood Hills Amphitheater, where Fantasmic is now, is there. Actually, that's the Theater of the Stars. The Hollywood Hills is over there. But yeah, you get the idea. It's not too far from what we actually did.
It's like that there's an orange grove. So this still kind of has a run out, this layout here.
Yeah. Yeah, this is pretty early. I don't remember who did this, but I do recognize it. But the idea that I do remember now that you went through sort of the Twilight Zone up here, but then there was a big Fifth Dimension scene down at the run out area, if I remember correctly, Lane, right? Yeah, there's much more of a walkthrough.
Oh, okay. Well, we know this one.
This is the painting that Eric was talking about, right? That he did for a big.
Showed up the next day like, you got it done?
Yeah. And this is.
Take it, I guess, if you want.
Yeah, this is done for publicity because Michael was announcing the Disney decade and he wanted to have something to show, and it was really early. We were so, like I said, we had barely even figured out what the concept was going to be. It was really in infancy, probably not even Twilight Zone yet, obviously with the scary limousine there. But this got released to the Orlando Sentinel on purpose and went all over the place. And this is really the thank you, Eric. This is the rendering that sold the attraction for us, really. And this is more refined. Do you know who did this one? I don't remember. But you can see we're pulling the architectural elements together. The tower is more open than it ended up being at the top, and we had to make it a lot wider. Once we developed these guys developed technology, the engines or motors at the top were much bigger than we had imagined. So we had to widen the building a little bit and make the bump outs on the side that you guys probably have seen before. That's why those are there to accommodate the mechanical pieces. And this is pretty close to what it ended up being. And the queue is down here, and then up there. You see the very top of the building, there's a spire. That spire was one thing that we had to modify close to the end because we realized that it was just like 3 feet over 200 feet. And I think 199 feet is the height that the FAA
So you
will
guys went
allow
over.
you. Huh?
You guys went over and then had to modify.
We had to take
Oh,
the top.
wow,
We had to
okay.
take the top spire off.
Yeah, because the
or-
story is like all along you guys knew like, oh, we got it.
No, no. Well,
199.
we didn't have to take off the physical building, but we
Yeah,
had to
yeah.
modify the drawings so that we didn't
Yeah.
have to have a flashing
Okay.
red light on top of the building. Yeah, but the design was so far along and the track was laid out, we couldn't shorten the whole building.
Okay.
We just had to remove, and it's okay. You don't really notice it.
Yeah.
But we didn't want a flashing red light on top of our building.
No, totally.
Anyway, and there you can see, that's very atmospheric version of, you can see this process. Each time it gets a little bit closer and closer and closer as we narrow it down. And it still isn't showing exactly how wide the building had to be because that was kind of a late development, but the gist of it's there.
I think there was a lot of back and forth with the building because when we put the engines on the top, the architect initially had it come out so it almost looked like a hammer on the top. And so we really wanted to make it look like a hotel, not something that was accommodating. So we did. We went through quite a few of these.
And as I said before, we looked at the building and the model, and that's what's great about having a dimensional model is we looked at it and said, it's become really wide, and we want it to be narrow and elegant. So as I mentioned before, we turned the building so that you're looking at it more like a model will turn their body to look thinner. It was more flattering, and that's what we did. This is kind of almost a more straight-on effect, and view. You can see how wide it is at the top. So we did that little art direction trick to make it look a little more slender. Put it on a diet.
Can we talk about the sightline thing? Obviously,
Yeah.
one of the most famous Disney details of all time is that this is visible from Epcot, and it sort of looms over the Morocco Pavilion. Can you tell us about that process?
Sure. So there was some concern about that, and we would go, I think it was with Marty and Bob, and we would go over to Epcot and we'd sort of look at what the sight lines might be. But in order to really see, because the building hadn't been built yet, we did balloon tests. So we got weather balloons that are big red balloons and then floated them up to the height this would be and then looked at it. And we gathered over there and looked at it, and you could see a bit of it. I mean, you could see the balloon. But because it was in line sort of with Morocco and Italy maybe too, you could see it a little bit from, and because this was a Spanish revival, Mediterranean revival, it looked like it could have been a hotel in the distance in one of those.
Yeah, exactly right. And then I think I might have said this earlier the other day, and then we said, oh, come on, look at the swans and the dolphins over there. Are you kidding me? This is nothing compared to that. But you guys can see that the spire on the top, that's on the model. And after the model, we actually reduced it sort of more of a diamond-shaped thing on the top. That's what I was talking about earlier. Another interesting thing, I think, is that I worked with John Hench, you all did, but on the colors of the hotel, because we wanted to have a Mediterranean revival building. Most of them are sort of cream and sort of yellowish white or pure white. And we said, that's not right for something that has this kind of weird, somber kind of thing happening in it. So we decided to go with more of a pinky color, and then we added some purple. And when I was working with John, he said, what's that stuff called that they throw on the bottom of school buses when kids throw up? He said, use that color. He said, that looks like a sad kind of pink. So we didn't literally do that, but we made it a little bit darker, and so it felt more in a somber mood and a little more foreboding than a bright, happy Spanish kind of building.
Did you always have the idea if we're gonna theme this ride system and wrap it in a building, we need a moment where the windows open or people can see outside? Was that always there?
It was definitely part of the ride design that we wanted people to know how high they were.
Okay.
It's sort of like Cat Canyon water. We want them to be scared.
Yeah, and from an art direction standpoint, I remember as you said that, Tom, we said we want the people to be able to look out of the building, and we want the people below to know what they're getting into if
Yeah,
they get on it.
exactly.
So and actually that added the story beat of the the hotel being hit by lightning. So we had a reason to expose the side of the hotel and be able to see the elevators. Otherwise, it didn't make any sense to have the side of the hotel opening up, and that's really the impetus for that big, scary burn side of the thing with the flashing signs and the
Yeah, there's
metal.
essentially a section of building
Yeah,
that's
it's really
vanished.
stripping
Yeah.
stripping half the wall off and letting you see into the guts of the elevators.
And this model, was this just a publicity model? This is on the poster we have outside too. Was this just publicity? This wasn't something from WDI? or-
Was that done for the filming? Maybe.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Could be done for the filming.
In the video that Mark narrates in the other part of the pre-show, before you go into the boiler room, you see the Tower of Terror on that fateful night and the lightning. And I think this is the model that's built to shoot
They used the model.
for that
Okay.
for that film.
And then it's also in the publicity stuff, like the poster you'll see outside is this model. Yeah. And this is, again, this is almost what's on the commemorative ticket. Even though you guys had changed quite a bit, this still somehow made it onto some things. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the idea that there was scaffolding around the hotel, as I remember, and maybe there was some kind of maintenance going on it, and that's why you saw the elevators. Of course, once we got the reality of what we could do with the ride systems with these guys' input, we said that's not worth it. We're going to have to cover
Yeah.
more of it up. We can't have this lacy sort of open thing. So, but you try and you go back and forth, and it's a give and take.
Yeah. Well, it's cool to go through that process. Should we talk about, do you want to talk about actually building the thing? If not, I think we have a little montage. Maybe the montage will bring back some memories. Well, let's see if this is, I think we have it. Fingers crossed here. We're going to see if this works. We've exhausted the system as we've exhausted the Imagineers as well over the course of the weekend. Maybe.
Those pre-war wonder years
Oh,
have
I
been
hear it.
faithfully recreated
Oh, they're
by
seeing it out there.
Imagineering designers to help tell the story of a group of guests
Oh, this is
who
gonna be the
boarded a
pre-show
hotel
film,
elevator one dark
actually.
and stormy night, and who, well, disappeared when a bolt of
Now it's up
lightning
here.
struck.
And this
This
is
is
switched to
part of
black
what
and white
guests
to be
will
the
see in
video
the
that you guys
pre-show.
see in the ride. There's black and white.
Hollywood, 1939.
And this was a set that was built to film this. It was not filmed in the pre-show because we hadn't built the pre-show yet. It was all happening at the same time
Right. A beacon for the show business at
in
Lee.
California.
Now,
So do you use like the same
something is
blueprints
about
essentially to
happen
build
that
a
will
set
change
that
all
matches the lobby? Yeah.
Yeah, they would give them to that production company. They would do their own set of blueprints because they didn't obviously need to build. They need to, the back of it look like your
Guests
walls here.
won't see is all the preparation that went into this vignette as produced for theme park productions by award-winning director Joe Dante.
Ready and action.
On a soundstage in Culver City, the lobby of the Hollywood Tower Hotel
there you
had
can
been
see the back,
reproduced
that's-
right down to the bell on the front desk. The lost guests in question included a celebrity couple, a little girl and her governess, and an obviously overworked bellhop, plus a few extras and a toy poodle, all of whom were repeatedly going through their paces, witnessed by the normal complement of stagehands, techs, makeup people, and others.
It's so cool to see this in color. That's what I love about this.
It took Dante numerous takes to get the right effect, all under the watchful eye of Tower of Terror's show producer, Lane Akiyama.
The most exciting part was being able to get a sneak preview of what the lobby looked like. What we noticed was being able to see the set full size and to see it in reality with all the paint and the color and today's people walking through it, and then to be able to see this set with all the lighting and the characters walking through it and to see it in black and white brought it to life, and it gave it its own history. It was like it really was there since 1939, and it was great. I believed it looking at it, and I had seen the set, and yet I believed that these guys were there and they were checking in and they got in the elevator. It was really nice.
The pace is also quickened at the Tahunga facility, where other parts of Tower of Terror are coming together. Again, Lane Akiyama.
What I'm standing in front of now is the forced perspective corridor that's part of scene 7. It's the back part of it. And we're in production on this set, staging, getting ready for shipment to Florida sometime this fall. The other major scene that's being staged now is scene 8, which is the 5th dimension, and that's happening over in this area over here. That's major scene also. That is the point where the ride vehicle leaves the lift towers and moves through the scene and inserts itself into the drop towers.
Little look behind the scenes.
That's great.
I didn't know that existed.
I didn't either.
I
You
love
taught
when
us
I
it.
could show Imagineer something they haven't seen.
That's amazing.
That's
Thank you,
a career
Tom.
highlight.
That made it worth the trip. No, but and also I was going to mention the idea of the maintenance, because you saw the Hollywood couple get into a regular hotel elevator, but we knew, like these guys were talking about, the capacity had to be much more than a small, 5-person elevator. So we came up with the idea of a maintenance service elevator, and that led us to the idea of going to the boiler room out of the lobby of the regular hotel, backstage, if you will, in the hotel, to have these giant service elevators that would make more sense for the story and also accommodate all of our guests there.
And because of the lightning strike, the other elevators would be out of service. So we went to the Queen Mary down into their boiler room when it was in Long Beach to do some of the research, and that was. There were ghosts in the boiler room. It was crazy. But it was really interesting. It was really informative.
Is Eric saying that he saw ghosts or heard ghosts in the boiler room of the Queen Mary? Is that?
There's always ghosts in the boiler room. By the way, Queen Mary was written in the notes, right? So there you go. They did go.
Yeah.
They do go
Full circle, Eric.
Yeah. I was just wondering if Eric thought he saw a ghost or not.
You would say that about
Would add to the lore of Eric Robinson.
my chops all weekend. I don't know what's going on here.
Oh, boy. Jake, do we have that other construction clip? If not, it's okay, but maybe they haven't seen that either. I don't know if we have it. If not, I'll keep moving then and see what we have on here. Building development, we talked about that. Installation challenge. Oh wait, maybe we have something.
You are the passengers in a most uncommon elevator about to ascend into your very own episode of The Twilight Zone.
I'm sure you guys know this well, but all the sets there are all built out of perf metal and scenically painted so they look solid with front light and then dissolve away to the starfield and little things floating in the night.
I think this is test footage. Testing the scene, I think, maybe.
Yeah,
but I just love that Frank just behind me just goes, "This is really cool." Frank, you built this, right? Every effect in this is still great to this day.
Yeah, I think for me, in retrospect, now today, or the last time we were talking, the one thing that I wish we could improve is the 5th dimension, because technologically today, with video mapping and all this kind of stuff, you could do so much more amazing. It was amazing 30 years ago what we did, but I think it's just
Giant eyeball with a projection in it.
Right,
It was-
exactly,
yeah.
right. But it's just it's a victim of its own success. It's so popular, why put more money into it?
Yeah.
But someday I think our Imagineering relatives that are continuing on the thing will take care of that and make it even more amazing than it is
Oh, now
today.
we're seeing some behind the scenes footage here, not just the scene. I think we're walking around the set.
Fiber optics laced all over the thing. There's front lighting for the scenic, and then there's fiber optics all over it, and lighting behind it, and then projection at the back.
I think inside recall, Chris, we put fiber optics in the chairs too, the dimensional chairs. To help them.
It was cool. I don't know if people realize that screen pulls away with those ghosts. It's not a thing you would see with that lighting as intended.
Fiber optic illuminators, and then lots and lots and lots of fiber.
I don't know, but there's a magic to fiber optics. I don't know why. I miss fiber optics. You know, I know when they took the floors out in front of Interventions at Epcot, everyone was very sad. There's just something magical about it. I don't know why. Yeah, I mean, that's not fiber optics. But that electrical parade sign in the front is, and it wows everybody. It's timeless.
It's like the fireworks and Muppets we were talking earlier.
Yeah,
It's just-
they will always work. Like, they will always charm people. Yeah, we get the idea, I think. I don't know. I don't think it's going to get more interesting, but I thought it was cool.
Thanks,
I thought
Tom.
it was cool.
This whole thing again?
Do you want to see more? We can keep playing it. I just felt it was getting a little repetitive. I didn't want to, But Lane wrote installation challenges. What are the challenges? What did we encounter?
Installation of the ride system, the show systems, there are a lot of installations. So I think Chris is probably better suited to talk about the ride system, but I enjoyed it very much. And really just bringing objects that large onto the site, it takes forever. There's a whole lot of communications that takes place and odd hours, working around the operation of all the parks and the property. And so it's always challenging, but it's also very stimulating. So we look forward to these challenges.
Like 3 in the morning, you mean?
Oh, yeah.
Eric said 3 in the morning.
Anytime the least amount of people are on property.
Whenever the least amount of people are on property.
Least
Yeah.
amount of traffic.
Yeah.
Well, and when we had to do programming, second and third shifts because we couldn't be doing it when everybody else was there. If we're doing lighting or programming the ride vehicle, we had to do it when there weren't people.
The first 12 hours, we'd started at 6. So 6 to 6 was show installation, then 6 to 6 was ride installation. And things got, from a labor standpoint, very thin at night, ride engineers at the top of the building. I remember carrying 5-gallon cans of kerosene to the top of the building for their heaters. Up the stairs, because we didn't have operators for the lifts, the elevators, everything wasn't online yet. So everybody got a lot of exercise. Had excitement with a GE cabinet one night. I remember that. Everyone was okay. So
I think we do have some construction pictures, Jake, maybe just 2 or 3, but those might be fun to look at. I don't know if everyone's seen these, but it was obviously everyone saw this from the park. You couldn't miss it. There was a nice big themed wall out there. So here it's pretty far along at this point, and you see Sunset Boulevard in front of it, even without a run out. Yeah, it's a behemoth.
yeah.
It's scarier like that? Well, they voted against the scaffolding version, so.
Okay.
Yeah, there it is. And another angle. And there's inside the lobby. Not finished. The tiles aren't all in.
That's the Biltmore Hotel lobby recreation.
Yeah.
And so the ceiling here looks like the Biltmore lobby that was carved and painted. And we realized we couldn't do that kind of detail. So what we ended up doing was creating decals. We created the pattern, and then so it was put on like wallpaper.
Okay. Yeah. Very, very cool. I have programming and testing. Programming and testing. Did you erase it from your notes? I don't know.
Oh, programming and testing.
It went into the fifth dimension.
Yeah, it did.
Well,
Yep.
I was just going to say, we knew what the drop was going to be, and then we had to figure out the timing, of course. That's just another theme of today, of how to make each, when you figure out the right timing, that it tells you how long each scene can be. How long does it take the car to disengage from the first elevator, go through the fifth dimension, and then connect to the drop tower. And so that really, the timing had to be worked out, and then we had to back into the show from that way. So you want to tell the story, but you have the beginning and the end are set for you. There's not much wiggle room you have for that, so we have to edit that and change the story timing to fit that too.
So that includes, as you alluded to, programming the audio, programming the lighting, programming the special effects, and that was during the day, but it was also at night. So there were effects that happened at nighttime that could only be programmed then. Programming the ride system, when the drop was, I know it's changed now, but to sit inside that shaft and to program what was happening, making sure it was working.
Were you always aware that, this is something we could update the ride profiles? Was that just known right out the gate?
Yeah, we knew that.
Was there any concern about it? Because it was I don't know if people know, it was a single drop when it opened.
Yeah, it was. It was just in and down, and that was pretty thrilling. But people wanted more. They said that's our favorite part of the ride. So we started calling it the cocktail shaker version, where you just went, up and down and up and down. And every so often it was programmed, so it became kind of a thing to wait for, to see what's the next one we're going to do. And it got weirder and weird, and more severe, I guess you'll say, as time went by, because we had to keep topping it. Couldn't go backwards, right?
Yeah.
It's got to get better and better.
And now it's gotten, but if you've been on Guardians of the Galaxy,
But they're not challenges, but creative challenges. Like, I remember the one that popped into my mind was when you go through the fifth dimension and you've seen the people and you've seen the eyeball, and then you come to where you're going to enter the elevator shaft. We had a wall of fiber optics like the Twilight Zone floating there, and we said, how can we get that door open to get into the elevator without it look like an elevator door? We came up with the idea of one of all the things converging to one point of light and then turning into an opening into the other dimension and then opening up. And everybody said that came up like almost like in a dream. It wasn't planned. It was just like, that's it. Let's do that. And that was really a cool moment because we were struggling with that for a while. Yeah.
who was anyone here on the first test ride on the site?
The sandbags were, but
with
but shortly after that,
I don't.
after the sandbags survived, we did it.
Does anyone have memories of their first test ride?
I was not involved at that point. I
Okay.
was on the other side of the planet.
So as you can guess, I'm not really fond of heights, and so this ride was probably, had I been given the choice, I still would have picked it because it was so cool. But so I first time I took the ride was when Marty was there, and Marty was going to take the ride, and he looked at me and he said, "So have you been on it yet?" I said, No, but I will. It's okay. Took me by the arm. There was no yes or no. And so we took the ride up. I must have blacked out or blanked out at the top because I grabbed the person's leg next to me. The good news was it was not Marty, but it was Dick Riggert. But I got my sandbag T-shirt.
I'm sure that the ride team was the first. These guys, colleagues, are the first to ride it. And once they said that it was okay for everybody else to ride it, we went on it. And I loved it from the very beginning. It was awesome. It was great.
Any other fun stories or anecdotes as we wrap up?
I got one.
Okay, go ahead.
One of the last times I went on the ride, for some odd reason, the narration didn't happen after the drops. So I sat there and I said, I'm here. I mean, I might as well just do it. So as we were moving towards the ending, a warm welcome back to those of you who made it, and a friendly word of warning, something you won't find in any guidebook. The next time you check into a deserted hotel on the dark side of Hollywood, make sure you know just what kind of vacancy you're filling, or you may find yourself a permanent resident of the Twilight Zone. I couldn't help it, and people thought it was odd, and people applauded, but, you know, I felt it was my duty.
Oh, and go ahead.
No, I was saying, the other thing is, one of you guys out there was talking about the sort of Easter eggs and details we added from other episodes of the Twilight Zone in the pre-show area, and then in the finale, the ventriloquist dummy and the game of chance with the devil, that kind of thing. So that was really fun to figure out how to put those Easter eggs in. Go ahead. Do you have something else?
Was that something you said? Michael watched every episode, or did
Yeah,
people
yeah,
on the
and
team?
well,
Michael
all of us.
Sprout.
I did not watch all of them. Michael watched all of them. We
Yeah.
watched a lot of them, but then we came up with a list of what are iconic episodes that we won't base the ride on, but that we can reference for Twilight Zone fans. That they'll say, so it's sort of a combination of all the episodes, a tribute to the Twilight Zone, if you will.
Were those all made from scratch, or was there any
No,
prop
we
acquisition?
made them from scratch.
Okay.
They were recreated. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
I have one question to ask. This is a story I was told a long time ago, and apparently it's slightly wrong. I want to get the real story. Does anyone know are they pickles or pickled sausages that got glued down at the exit? Does anyone know this? Oh, no. This is not good. There is a story by the photo pickup. There is this big jar where you would get the photo. There's this big jar, whether it's pickles or pickled sausages, and it's there in the back, and it's very brown. But the story is that they were laying out the props to be glued down, and they left their jar of pickles or pickled sausages out, and the next person came and glued the props down and glued that down, and they decided to just leave it there.
Is it in the maintenance area?
Yeah.
It's
a
when
photo pickup.
You exit, and it's kind of a maintenance area, and there's a cage
Right.
where the photo preview is above.
I don't remember that.
Oh, okay.
I don't.
The search will continue to find out.
It's not impossible. Like the bride, the ghost bride's ring in the cement outside of Haunted Mansion. That's not really what that was, but
Yeah.
why not? It's a fun story.
Yeah.
I have one thing that we can end it on.
Sure.
So when we had the grand opening, Bruce Laval, who was running the park, and I were doing the dedication, basically. They set a stage up in front of the Tower of Terror, and we had, thousands of guests waiting to go on it, flooding Sunset Boulevard, and they had written a script for us to read, and Bruce said something about welcome to the studios, blah, blah, blah. And I was introducing the Tower of Terror. They had a big firework thing that was going to go off. It was during the day, and the script said, it's Hollywood 1939, let me take you back. That was the first line I said. And a man in the front row said, we don't want to go back, we want to go on the goddamn ride.
That man may have been my father. It's very likely.
So anyway, I made it through the rest of the speech, but I talked really fast and then let them go on the ride.
Well, thank you also. I know I speak on behalf of everyone watching at home and here in person. I think this is an incredible attraction, indelible, and will stand the test of time, and just one of the most beloved attractions of all time. And yes, still is, I think, and I love the passion when some of the other versions were overlaid, the passion that everyone felt to say, we really want you, Disney, to keep this Twilight Zone attraction here in Florida. I think I speak for everyone. We're so glad they did, and we're so happy that you gave this to us, you and everyone on your team. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We are at the end. We are at the end. I know the Imagineers are very excited. We are at the end. Let's please, for all the Imagineers and everyone, Mark and everyone that's been up here for 2 days, can we have a round of applause? They've been so wonderful. Yeah, absolutely. They've given us so much of their time. I know myself and everyone here are appreciative. I know Give Kids the World is very appreciative of everything we were able to do thanks to all of you participating. We really appreciate it. It's been the time of my life. I'm overjoyed to have been a part of this. And I thank everyone at home. Those of you staying here, I have some notes for you at the end. But those of you watching at home, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. And we'll see you at the movies.